الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. So over the past few days we've been discussing the etiquettes and adab of knowledge, the virtues of knowledge, tips of how to acquire knowledge. Today I want to discuss something very, very important. When you see some books mention about studying knowledge, they will mention one concept. So it's called tadrij. What's tadrij mean? What is it? Masdar from which bab? تفعيل. What's the ماضي? درجة يدرج تدريجا. What درجات means? Level stages. So when you're acquiring knowledge, you have to keep in mind, you have to bear in mind that this knowledge, this pursuit of knowledge comes in stages. Okay? It's going to be a long process. You understand? Some people, it's probably a good thing in a way. Now, I want to study Quran, I want to study Seerah, I want to study Hadith, I want to study Fiqh, I want to study Aqidah. Yes, you can study, all of these things are to be studied. Now, there's two ways of studying something. One way of studying something is a very, like a layman study, average man study. For example, I want to know Aqidah, so I get an English book or Urdu book or a Turkish book or a Gujarati book, whatever language I know. I pick it up, I study it, and I read it, but I don't understand, I ask another person, a scholar, and that's it, I'm fine. Yes? That's like a layman study. And another study is what? You study something scholarly. That you study under somebody's guidance, but along with that you study the evidences, the proof, the counter arguments, the different opinions. You yourself are then guided to the tools to how, which other books have contrary opinions, which books will, you get what I'm saying? Not just on your own, not just one book or one information, I tell you this, khalas. Do you understand? Now, if you want to study this way, scholarly way, that's what our madrasa and all Darul Ulooms and a part-time madrasa, that's what they do. That's what the objective is, that you're not just teaching a person a mas'ala. You're not teaching them a rule or one ayah, one translation. You're giving them the tools, you're guiding them a scholarly study, so that thereafter they themselves have the tools and the ability to study whatever field they want themselves. And for this, what could easily happen, let's say for example, you may have studied probably 2 years, 3 years of Arabic course. 3 years. Somebody may go and study a course on Aqidah, or a course on Fiqh, or a course on Seerah, or a course on Usul Hadith. And they'll learn more than, they'll learn that in about a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, all in English. And they'll know more than you know about Usul Hadith. You'll be studying for 3 years, you don't even know this much. You don't even know this much about Usul Tafsir. You don't even know this much about Aqidah. Correct? But that person is only, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. That person's goal is what? To study. Just study, I've been given information and I understand it. And they may surpass you. But our goal is what? To have scholarly study. So unless you don't know your Arabic properly, you do not have the tools and the key to get to those original sources. After the 3 years, you start studying. So after you finish your Arabic properly, you start studying. Now, you start studying Usul Hadith, you don't have to rely on some English translation of Usul Hadith. You may study a primer Usul Hadith, you can do Bayquniya, you can do Nukhbatul Fikr, then you can do what? Tadrib al-Rawi. And after that, you can say, well, the Ustaz might guide you, that was Alfiyah of Iraqi. You can read those. Now, in those 4 months, you can snowball and you can learn so much in that. If you like that science, you can specialize in that science so much, because why? Teacher will teach you. So, and you'll have access to all of the resources, English and Arabic. You understand? As opposed to somebody who just rushes. So for example, you say, well, for 3 years, we're just doing, second year is Arabic, third year is even more Arabic. We're doing Arabic, Balagha, Sarf in English, Sarf in Arabic. We're doing Balagha in English, we're doing Balagha in Arabic, we're doing I'rab al-Quran. We're just going to end, because if you want to study the Quran properly, and you're able to study from every aspect, you want to be able to study the Quran, translation, Quran, you understand the Arab. You want to study Quran from the Ma'thur perspective, from all the Athar, the Sahaba. You want to study Quran from Balagha perspective, the Arabic perspective, from a fiqh perspective. It'll take you more time in gaining the tools than actually studying this. Do you understand? So when you're studying, you have to remember that the tadrij in ilm, there's a methodology in ilm. And sometimes people are a bit impatient and they want to get this. This will, you can try to say, you have to work for this. And Sometimes a lot of people before I used to teach one-on-one classes, and somebody they have no guidance, so they would come and say, "Oh, I want to teach this book, teach me usul hadith." And so I start teaching them, they don't even know the Arabic. So how do you teach them? You understand? So I was telling them yesterday as well that, let's say, and what happens sometimes, that, for example, I was seeing this great scholar, very famous scholar. So he's giving a dars on usul hadith, and he says mu'dal. So he's giving a hadith and he's giving a dars on mu'dal, and someone's asking, how do you spell mu'dal? So the person doesn't know how to spell mu'dal, he's giving it all in English. So they don't understand the concept, they don't know how to spell basics. So yes, they might be able to do that, but that person is not going to be able to read any other book in any other. I saw a course recently. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm just saying is that then what happens, this becomes you're very limited. So if there's a course about Aqidah, so the reading material was everything in English. The Oxford Guide to Modern Ahkam al-Mawlid, the Oxford Guide of Aqidah, and Oxford, all these 5-6 books in English, which may be useful, because obviously when you're studying something, you don't only study from one angle. If you study the opposition's angle, then you know how to defend yourself. You get what I'm saying? But if everything you read is this in English, you're not reading, you're doing Aqidah, you can't read Aqidah Nasafiyya, you can't read Aqidah Tahawiyya, you can't read Juwayni and Ghazali, you can't read Ibn Taymiyyah, you don't know what the Khilafat amongst, you're just referring to somebody who's written in English, then it's a very, very primitive study. You're studying Seerah, and your Seerah reference is what? Martin Lings or Montgomery Watt, and you're just reading them, or Asil Nectar. But you can't actually go back to Ibn Ishaq, you can't go to Ibn Hisham's, you can't go to Usdul Ghaba, you can't go back to Tabaqat. So then you're just very, very limited. You're doing tafsir, and you're doing tafsir, you read Ma'arif al-Quran in English. So nothing's about it, but it's like, then you could have read that before studying the Alim class. If your Arabic is good enough, then you can study everything. You can study Tabari, you can study Ibn Kathir, you can study Zamakhshari, you can study Baydawi, you can study Tahrir al-Tanweer, you can see all different aspects. You can study Sunni tafsirs, you can study Shi'i tafsirs, you can study Mu'tazili tafsirs, you can see all the pros, the cons, the problems. You get what I'm saying? But what does it all depend on? That you go through a study and you study properly in Tadrij. You do Nahwa, you do your Arabic first, properly. You get what I'm saying? So yes, Nahwa itself is not, like for example, if you're going to study German grammar, you won't get reward for it, would you? Unless you got some, so why do we hope for reward in Arabic grammar? Because this is a means of us studying the Quran. So you have Nahwa, you have Sarf, you have Balagha, you have Ilm al-Urud, poetry. Why do you study poetry? So why are we studying poetry? If you study poetry, you can understand how the poetry differs from the Quran. You study poetry, you can understand how the Arabs use the language originally. So even for that you get reward. You have Sarf, you have Balagha. If you study Sarf, you're able to understand the Quran properly. You study Balagha, you understand the eloquence of the Quran, you understand how the Arab text used to be written before, how the Quran outmatched the Arabic that the Arabs used to speak, how the brilliance of the Quran. So all of these sciences, like, then after that, if you just go, then you have to study fiqh, but usul fiqh. Not just the masail and deep discussions, but the principles, underlying principles. How are these masail derived? Why are they derived? Why is the difference amongst the scholars? Then you become forbearing, tolerant. You understand, all right, I understand why Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi, why they differ. It's not about one masala, it's about a whole principle. So we appreciate each person's principle. We understand those who don't follow one of these imams. Everything becomes clear. You understand what's happening. Usul hadith, you understand, well, what does it mean by hadith sahih? What does it mean by hadith da'if? What level of da'f is it? Who are the people who have cited da'f? Are they tad'if, mu'tabar or not mu'tabar? The field is endless. But all of this depends on what? The fundamentals. So when you're acquiring knowledge, you have to have sabr, patience, but not if you study knowledge from an academic perspective. You need to have what? Sabr, and do a tadrij, under guidance of somebody who's studied. You study books in a particular order. And you master the initial sciences first, then you go on. If you do this, then you are given the tools. And then you can study anything you want. And if you just rush and say, I want to study Quran, I want to study Hadith, I want to study, you just do basics and then you yourself are stuck. You can't read tafasir, you don't know how to, the Arabic is not good enough. So all of this, the whole structure that's built up is for a purpose. So that your development is such that you become independent in your study. You're taught, you're trained to study. So for example, if you look at the Quran now, Tafsir Quran, if you want to study the Quran, probably take your whole a good 20 years to study the Quran properly. From beginning, from Surah Baqarah, and that's just being like average, like Surah Baqarah until Surah Nas, Fatiha to Nas. You want to study properly from every single aspect. You want to study Balagha aspect, you take about 20 years. We can't teach them, brothers. But if we give you the tools, you have the Arabics in place, your Balagha is in place, Nahwa is in place, Sarf is in place, your Aqidah is in place, your Fiqh is in place. You can go and study any tafsir you want because you know how to study it. And that's what you want. So that's why the initial sciences are painstaking. Some even get bored and say, why? You know, why is it so long? Some people enjoy it. But it's all for a purpose, for a bigger purpose. Do you understand? So you must have sabr, and you must follow a tadrij, a particular map, a particular setting, so that you are capable, you have tools of doing this. Do you understand? So may Allah give us all tawfiq to act upon this. Subhanallah bihamdi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.